we've got some agendas and minutes to look at real quick. What I'm going to do today is invite our esteemed director to come to the table and tell us what's what. Hello, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, late afternoon, whatever it might be. I just thought I'd give a quick 2-second kind of update on some things that may be of interest to the commission and answer the questions you may have. One, first, just congratulations to the new commissioners. That's the first time I've seen them here. I guess I missed the last meeting, so congratulations. I've heard some really wonderful things about both of you already, and Sam and I already know you, so pleasure to have you on the commission. Specifically, just something of interest regarding the police bureau. I had several months ago gone out to the police training center and observed their scenario-based trainings. There were 4 trainings. 2 were shootings, 1 was a taser, and 1 dealt with someone who clearly had a mental health issue. And the scenarios were how the officers were supposed to deal, protocol procedures through that process, strategies, and other things. Long story short, 3 of those trainings were graded, 1 was not. The one dealing with the mental health issue was not graded. My question was, why would you not grade something most police officers are going to have to do almost every day as opposed to something most will never do, which is shoot someone? And so I came back a week later and I got a commitment from the captain of the training facility that the next wave of officers going through the in-services, all those scenarios would be graded. And then just last week, they began the process of putting that together, and they invited me back out to the training facility and met with Captain Harmon, who runs the facility, 2 of the training officers, and Emily Covelli, who's their analyst, who really did an excellent job of putting together a grading process by which the one scenario would be graded. So I thought that they had really done a very thoughtful job of that, and I appreciate them obviously taking my concerns and questions into consideration. What I'll say is overall, I thought that all of the scenario-based trainings were very well done. In another life, I was a cop in the military, so I have some idea of what makes sense, and so I could ask some questions. And so I thought the scenarios were very well done. I thought the training facilitators did an excellent job in trying to ensure that what were essentially new messages to the police officers was really being put forth, such as just because you can use your taser doesn't mean you should, and what are the thought process steps that you can be able to go through to evaluate whether I can do this or should do this or not. Secondly, with the mental health piece, the training goal was to teach an understanding that disengagement is also a legitimate now response. And just because you're there doesn't mean you have to cuff them and take them out. So disengagement is the legitimate response. And they really did an excellent job of putting that there and ensuring that the police officers got it. I will tell you honestly, there were a couple that did not. And so then my questions were, what's the next step in terms of remedial processes? They didn't have a good answer. And so that's the next step of my conversation. But they are seriously thinking about it. How do they then address someone who doesn't come up to those minimum expectations of understanding the expectation is there? So I think they're making some very good steps in regard of the training processes.
How is the office getting that information? I mean, what you just shared with us, I think a large portion of our community would love to hear that. That our director is doing that work and is bringing up those questions, and that the police are actually listening. I'm wondering how we can get that message to that community in an effective way, because I think a lot of people think that we aren't or that this office, or I wouldn't say you, but any of us really are asking these questions or are thinking about these things even. And I think it would be great to have a conversation about how we get that information out. And that may be somewhere where we can help. That may be a function that we consider. But is that something that's being done already? And I guess, what efforts are being made in that regard?
I appreciate the question. The answer is, Jeff has asked. And I've essentially said, just wait a minute. Because I'd like to move it further down the road a little bit to see what is completely instituted and what the final results are of the scenarios, and they're not done, and we're not done with the evaluation completeness of that. So I just said wait, and the second half is just as much as I would like people to be aware of that, how do I do that? For me, it's not a story. Okay, I'm doing this, and the story would be, from the police perspective, maybe we're being called out because we weren't doing good enough, as opposed to see what we're doing. And so I balance that, and I don't have a good answer for that, and I'm willing to listen to how you'd like to see that disseminated. That works for me, but
Yeah.
again, I don't write a press release for every time I go do something.
Sure. It just seems like, the perception that those questions are even being raised by this office could be an important, just from a perception standpoint, an important piece of information for our community to have.
I don't disagree.
Because even if there is no, tangible result that our community is going to be able to point to and say, hey, look how much better things have gotten, because those are generally so bogged down in numbers and statistics, it would be great for people to know that these are questions that are being asked. So, I don't know the answer. I'm just asking.
Dante and I talked about it, and we'll, like you said, the feeling is when it gets a little more complete, we'll definitely get that.
Also, in regard to the good training that the CPRC is providing for the command staff, and that they're considering rolling out now for the sergeants. My conversation to the command staff now is, you had the training, so what? And what are you doing, or what can you show that has been done, changed, evaluated, etc., because of the training you received before you send it off to the sergeants? And I haven't really gotten a good answer. I was speaking with a commander, and I said, how is this reinforced, the information that you received, how is this reinforced, for example, at roll call? So that before your officers are going out on the street to have these interactions, how are you reinforcing what you learned and what you heard in the training? And the response was, well, we just don't really want to do that because it'll make the officers think that we're saying they're not doing a good job. I said, no, that doesn't, no. And so how do we reinforce, so I don't have a good answer, and I'm still waiting on a better answer. And so those are some of the conversations that I'm having. How do we reinforce what's being presented and promoted and gone through the CPRC's training, and that, so that it just doesn't stay up in an ivory tower, but filters through the Bureau in a way that also then filters to the community. So I don't have an answer.
I wonder if it should be focused through the Bureau or through us, because I think that if they know, then they're able to keep the Bureau accountable. If the community is covered, we're telling people about it. It's not gonna, I see why we want to wait so that they can have like a good image and know that we're doing things and we're solving things, but if they know earlier, would that hurt or would it help?
Would it hurt if they know specifically what?
What's going on, and I came a little bit late, so I'm might be confused, but there's been work going on, and Kyle asked the question of should we be telling?
Yeah, sure. Oh, I don't think it would hurt at all if the community is aware that these questions are being asked and they are being responded to by the police bureau. I think it's a positive statement on behalf of the police bureau. that they are listening, that they are evaluating their own processes, et cetera. So I don't think it's a negative at all if the community is aware of that. I think though that there's also a need that it be promoted and filtered from the top down, because that's how the Bureau works. And so I don't know how much the knowledge by the community is going to change the actions of the police officers that they interact with. Just because I know you are supposed to do this and I tell you you're supposed to do it, might not get me anywhere. So I'm not saying no at all. I guess I'm saying maybe it definitely needs to come from both sides and work to the middle. So yeah.
So I'm getting back in our reevaluation process. So what do you know about the end point of that training? Is there a pass fail, and does that, and what happens if somebody fails, and does that process go into their evaluation?
Yeah, and those are the questions I was asking. There is for the first 3 that were graded, it was clearly a pass-fail, because if I don't evaluate the shooting situation correctly and a civilian gets shot, I didn't pass. So some of those are very easy to grade. Some of the difficult part with the community, with the mental health issue was, how do I evaluate this individual in terms of, is he a threat to himself, is he a threat to somebody else? Do I respond now? Can I disengage? Can I start and then disengage again? So some of those are not as easily quantifiable, and so that was the process by which they were trying to figure that out. And so they did have lots of different criteria and different categories to look at those kinds of things.
And that's helpful. And when I was referring to the evaluation, was the overall officer evaluation, so there were the employee evaluations that they do. Does that take part? Does that training process take part in that for them?
In terms of like their own performance evaluation, to my understanding, you can answer this better than I, police don't get performance evaluations.
Right.
No.
They don't get it.
So what are the consequences of not passing the training?
Yes.
It might be like when you're qualifying for firearm. If each year you have to qualify with your firearm, if you can't pass it the first 3 times, you go through 2, you pass it. So you qualify. I don't know if that's the case here, but it could be.
They bring you back,
Yeah.
send you through a different kind of scenario that's very simple. So the question is, from the police perspective, the question is, okay, if they don't pass the first time, we run them through again, they don't meet basic criteria that we are expecting the second time, what do we do? Do we leave them on the street? Because now we're liable because we know that they failed this, or do we pull them off? It becomes a big, in their minds, legal/political/union kind of issue that they don't have the answer for yet. So that's the conversation that they are more specific about.
So that's where they're at, like, so if someone fails, they don't know what to do at that point? Or they're not
I don't
sure?
think they've gotten to the point where somebody has not passed twice. They bring them back for a remedial session. I don't know that they've gotten to the point where somebody has passed. At least the community piece, the other, shootings and the taser piece. That's much more specific. Community piece. And then I asked, can we layer the community scenario so that, because I said, where's the scenario where the officer walks in and everybody's speaking in sign language, which sometimes is a very aggressive, language, and, 2 months ago, the city of Portland paid $60,000 because of a police officer's decision not to arrest, and somebody got their butt kicked and all those kinds of things. Or can we layer it that they walk in and the person has a mental health issue, but they don't speak English. What do you do? And how do, so how can we layer these so we can get more than one specific scenario? And so it gave them some pause to think about how to do this differently and or more broadly. Come to different situations.
Well, thanks very much for that.